Okay, so here we have a Betamax hoist carriage where the gravity brake lock emergency brake is engaged. And what it looks like when it's engaged is the flat side of this is right up against the track. And it is not moving on both sides. Okay, so there's major pressure on the inside wheel underneath. And oh, the camera. There we go. There's major pressure on the wheel on the inside underneath on both sides. Now my coworker here is going to go and try to lift this up, and you're going to see how stuck it is. Go ahead. Just lift it really hard. So he's not lifting it because that is like really stuck. So what we got to do is we got to bang that forward and then lift this up at the same time to disengage that. And if any of you are wondering where exactly this is supposed to be touching, it's supposed to be touching at an angle like this. So that way it can move freely like that. But when it looks like it's right up against here, it's going to be very hard for us to, like it is right there. You see that? It's supposed to be like touching at the very tip of the corner for it to move freely, for us to go and push it up. So now what we got to do is disengage that for it to move freely. That's going to be tough. I'm going to show you what it looks like when it's moving freely in a few minutes here. That's it. Okay, so we're undoing the cable on the hoist, and we're removing the hoist. When you're doing this, we're gonna, on the very bottom, the worker is gonna undo the cable that is attached to the carriage, and he is holding on to it right now. And then I'm gonna take this cable and go up, and it goes around the hoist, then down on this side. This side is attached to the motor, the spool. Okay. Oh my gosh, I'm huffing and puffing. Look at the nice view in Vancouver. Whoa, nice view. Wow. Hey. Okay, back to the here. You see that top stop right there? That is exactly where it's supposed to be with respect to that pulley. That pulley is at the exact height where it's supposed to be, with a wrung out top ring of the scaffold. It is not supposed to be any higher than that part right here, which means if it wanted to get this part here, wanted to go higher, there would need to be a standard and a ledger, and it would need to be between this ledger and this ledger. It cannot be any higher than this ledger if there's nothing to support it. Okay, so right there where it is as you see it is exactly how it is supposed to look, with the top stop in position in the right position. Okay, so I'm gonna put this on pause. I'm gonna show you something else. Okay, we're back. So I went and moved that pulley up from where it was right there, and the reason why I did that is because I'm going to show you something. If you look at the bar from here to here, you're going to notice that at this location right here there is a slight bend. Okay, and you're going to notice that on every track, maybe all the way down, it's going to be only at this side. Now what that means is the pulley, the cable that went up to here, which was attached to the spool, was grabbing that pulley at this side, and it was putting a huge amount of pressure at that point. You see where it's attached right there? That is where you see the bend right there. This bend will be common on a lot of tracks where somebody has overloaded the hoist, or they hit the top somehow, or they didn't use the bottom stop or the top stop, or something. But if you have a bend right there, it is because of the pulley. Okay, so that will always happen. There is very bad things that can happen if there is a bend right there. It's a very noticeable bend. What happens is, that means if this is going down, then the sides of these two tracks right here are going in. This one is going in, this one is going in. It's sucking it in, and it's screwing up the track between this point and this point. You're gonna have a slight bend going in. If this goes down, those two go in, and it makes it very difficult for the carriage to go up and down wherever it is that you want to put this track. Okay, so if you see a bend right there that is very noticeable, that needs to be corrected. This entire track needs to be thrown away and garbage, because no, you should not fix that. The only way that you can fix that is by putting this track into the wood chipper or metal chipper, scrap bin or whatever. Okay, and we're going to analyze that pulley later on. Until then, that is it for this video, and I'm going to work on the other hoist down there where we dropped the cable. So that's it. Okay, so we got the cable down to the ground and we dropped it from all the way up top. Normally you're not supposed to do that because you're supposed to use a rope to lower it down. But because we're short staffed today, that was our only option. I went and put that zip tie there to keep this spool nice and tight. It's not exactly completely totally tight. That's just to prevent it from unwinding. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna spool this cable back into there. And what I went and did was I went and took a rope or whatever and tied it so that way the brake is not engaged, which means we can use the controls to put the spool back in there. So one person's going to be on the buttons, the other person's going to be putting tension on this and pushing the spool in, and it's going to go nice and evenly back and forth until the end is right around here, and then we're going to tie the end off to this with another zip tie. Okay, so this is the mess that we have that we are undoing. And we're going to be doing this for 10 minutes, and then after that we're going to have a nice clean spool once we put everything back together. And then we're going to disconnect the power, disconnect the carriage, push this all the way up, take that motor out. And that is procedure number 5,000,002. That's it. Okay, so we got the cable loosely wound onto the drum. A lot of you are looking at this and wondering what the hell is going on. This guy doesn't know what he's doing. We are moving this hoist from this location to another location, and what we're going to do is once this goes back up on the other side and down the pulley, we're going to spool it nicely so it's nice and even. This will do for now. It's a loose spool, and we're going to disconnect this so that way the brake gets put on there. The transformer is about to be disconnected, and this carriage carrier can now go up, and then that motor can come out. Okay, so this is what the brake should look like when it's loose. Okay, as I said, it's just touching the tip of this brake, and it looks like this on both sides. Okay, so what you can do now is you can push this carriage up, and that will go down loosely. Okay, it's disconnected right there, and all you have to do is just pull up. So my coworker is going to do that, and you're going to see just how easy, nice and easy it is for one person to do it. Okay, Will, could you come here? I just want you to go down and lift up on the hoist. Let go. Okay, so before we go and put this hoist into that area right there, we need to make sure that this is straight, and this is plumb. Those three things in particular are very important. Whatever the rung is that you're putting it on, there needs to be absolute straightness, as you can see right here. Okay? If there is a bend right here, as I was talking about at the top, if there's a bend right there, that's going to compromise the hoist and its overweight limit switch. So if this is at an angle, then that means when we look at the hoist at the bottom, those two springs right there where the rung goes in, one's going to be touching and the other is not, and that button in the middle is not going to function correctly. So therefore, that rung right there on the track needs to be absolutely perfect. If it is bent in any way, it cannot be used, otherwise that button is not going to function properly. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, check this out first before you put that hoist in. That's it. Okay, so the power is hooked up to our hoist And I just want to let everybody know that when you get this onto the rungs, it is sitting on the bottom rung. This is the bottom, this is the top. If you look at that, it is not sitting on the top rung at all, but this is sitting on the bottom rung, as you can see. This part here is making contact here. Now, when we put everything back on, the cable is hooked up around the pulley, come all the way back down here, and is suspended with that carriage. Carrier, carriage, carrier, carriage. Okay, the carriage is on the carrier. All the weight is now on there. It is now in equilibrium according to the Betamax hoist. When that happens, this will now raise up and just touch those threads, okay, on both of them. That is why this needs to be absolutely straight and zero bends, because it will affect that button. Okay, you see that love button and those two there? So when this goes up, it will go hit the top of these threads. And the moment you put a load on, then that means these threads are pushing down on the springs, and then it closes the gap with that button. Okay, I have already explained to you before how a Betamax limit switch works, and this is what it's supposed to look like the moment you put the hoist onto the bottom rung. Okay, so now we're gonna put everything together. I'm gonna go up top, I'm gonna put this rope, I'm gonna put this cable onto a rope, I'm gonna feed it up there. My coworker is gonna go and hit the up button. I'm gonna pull this rope up, go around the pulley, come back down, and then we're gonna put the carriage back onto the carrier. Oh my gosh, that's a lot of explaining, but that's it. Okay, everybody, I'm gonna let everybody know something right now. This is the rope that I'm gonna use to pull the cable up. When it goes up, it's gonna go through the pulley right there, which I have to get. But I want you all to know that when it comes to the rope, you do not under any circumstances need this size of freaking rope. You can use a 1/4 inch yellow nylon rope. All you will be doing is pulling the cable up. It does not need to be this big. This is so awkward for me to go up the scaffold stairs, it was unbelievable. So don't use rope like this. Use a smaller sized rope if you know that you're going to be going upstairs, okay? And that's it. Now what I gotta do is I gotta go get that pulley, but before I do, I want to show everybody where I'm gonna put it. It's gonna go right there between these two, okay? It's gonna sit on that rung. And if I was to look at it carefully, it's straight. There's no bends in it, which is good. Same at the top, same with the one on the bottom, okay? So I'm gonna go get it, put it onto there, and then I'm gonna get to feed the cable up. Woohoo! Okay, so now we're at the point where we're gonna pull the cable down to the bottom of the hoist. Once it's already over, got to make sure that it doesn't skip the reeve, because that's bad. So now I'm going to go down there and help my friend pull on the rope, and we're going to hook that up to the carriage. Okay, so now that the cable is all the way down, it is hooked right here like it is supposed to be. And this here, when it lifts up on the load, this goes straight up and down. When there's slack on it, it grabs. See, slack. So when it's in motion, slack. In motion, slack. In motion, slack. See how it's hitting the corner? Okay, now, if the flat end that you seen earlier to this morning is touching that, that means the brake is fully engaged, which means it's gonna be really hard to remove. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna fix all this mess up. The way to do that is by tying the brake back like this. I usually use a bungee cord, but the safe way to do it is to grab it from on top here and pull down. So my coworker is going to use the down button. It's going to relieve this all the way till it's 3 spools to the end, and then what we're going to do is we're going to go nice and even all the way across, back around, nice tight spools. I gotta find a stick so I can push it into there as this is coming down, and I also got to get my oils and greases. So that is what we're going to work on. Okay, so I want to show everybody something here. You see how it's connected right there? that's not how it's supposed to look, because when it does not look correctly, you get all these bends and twists in it. And this right here is because there is no swivel attached between this and this clevis. So you need a swivel, so that way the cable can twist as it goes up and comes down. The cable will twist, and this will happen if you do not have that. So make sure that you have a swivel cable adapter onto your hoist brake. Otherwise, you're gonna get it twisted up like this right here. Okay, that's the end of that. Now we're at the part where we're gonna grease and oil the cable, and I went and undone it right up to that point there. It is dry to the touch. It is very dry. I don't know if you can see very well in the camera. This is what we will be using to do it. Here in Canada, I cannot find 90 weight oil. If I wanted 90 weight oil, I would have to order it from the United States of America. And for a 4-liter jug, it's about $120. It varies company by company. But we're gonna be soaking a rag with this, and then I'm gonna hold it right here with the rag as this is being reeved in. I'm gonna be also pushing it in with the stick while my coworker presses the button. He'll be under my command. Tell him up or down, up or down, up or down, and this will be nice and tight and greased. So I'm gonna put some grease onto this here too, because that's gross. We just had a winter, a lot of salt in the air because we're in Vancouver, and as you can tell, the white stuff in there, salt. Okay, so we're gonna look after this. And when it's all done, you will see how nice and neat it looks. And that's it for now. Okay, so now we got full tension on the end of our carriage, and that is how much cable is left. So one full column on the bottom, and then just over, I'd say, a quarter of a column for the second. Okay, and this is at the ground level, and that's going all the way up there. So in order for us to grease this line, I still got to grease it as this is going up. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to put the carrier onto the carriage, and then we're going to resume putting grease onto the line with the carriage going all the way up. And we're going to take this off here, which this can now make contact with the button. Okay, and then that's that. Okay, so here we are. The hoist is all the way up there. I am the only one standing directly into the line of fire, but this is what it should look like once it's all greased and spooled nicely. Even the walls are nice and greased that I did before. This is, there's no load on there. So this is now ready to go. I want to show everybody the rag here. You see how this rag is torn all to shit? Okay, this is why you don't use your bare hands. This is why you don't use regular gloves, because this will happen. This will rip through the gloves and hurt your hands. Okay, always use a rag. What I did was I squirted that onto the rag as I was going up. I was holding the rag and squirting oil onto it as he was going up and spooling in. Okay, so now what he's going to do is he's going to go down, but before he does, I wanted to show everybody the situation with the hoist, the weight. So you see, it's sitting up there. It's touching that. You can't really see it, can you? It's touching that thread, but it is not touching this thread. So it is supposed to. So what that tells me right now, somebody was messing around with these two bolts, and that thread is touching. This one is not. So it's causing an imbalance for this button right here. Okay, and that has to be adjusted. There is a way to adjust that according to the Betamax owner's manual, but it is sitting on this rung, and it's all the way up there with no load. So now what he's going to do is he's going to go down, and I'm going to do a separate video. Hold on. Okay, William, you can now go down. Oh, yeah. Stand a little bit. it to stop about 1 foot off the ground. Stand back. Right about there. Good. And there you have it. This what we're gonna do now is we're gonna test the buttons. I already tested this one here. This is the slack line button. If I press that, this will not go up or down. Next would be the overweight limit switch, which I gotta stick something into there. That should not be going up or down either. Okay, and as far as everything else is concerned, this hoist is ready to go. It's gonna get rid of all this shit and friggin' garbage out of here. And then we can hand over the controls to the other trades. So let's look at the brake here. See how it's not touching? That's what it's supposed to look like in normal operation. That should not stick at all whatsoever. This should move freely whatsoever. This should be nicely greased. And yeah, these springs should not break when you're doing this to them. The wheels, this can now come off. The wheels, there's if you see indents into the wheel, that means this hoist has been loaded on one side as an imbalance, which puts more stress on one side of the wheel than the other. Let's see here. This one and the one behind it are aluminum, and there is 2, 4, 8 of them in total. These ones here on the outside, what you're touching this track, are rubber. Okay, and this one's rubber too. Rubber, rubber, and yeah. Okay, so if you see any for the wheels that are touching this side of the track, you see a dent in there, and it's because somebody side loaded it, which means they put more weight onto this side or this side than in the middle. It's supposed to be balanced to prevent stress onto these wheels and the ones touching both sides of the track. All the wheels should share the weight. And that, ladies and gentlemen, should be the end of this video.